Welcome to another episode of the Politrickkks As Usual podcast. Today we have Karin Smith and Mr. Derek Tompkins in the Kindred Thoughts Bookstore here in Bridgeport. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Sound right.
You are.
It's cold, but I'm good.
It is cold. It is cold. So, obviously, I met you at the Rita Jennings book signing.
Yes.
We spoke about what you had here in a bookstore here in Bridgeport. That was maybe, I don't know how long ago, maybe 6 to 8 months ago.
Right. It was at the top of the
Right. And it was
year now, right?
so you probably didn't remember, right? I'm like, that was a very short conversation. And I think that day I said to you, hey, we gotta sit down and we gotta talk about what you're doing here in Bridgeport with this bookstore. And here we are finally. So thank you for allowing me to pull up on you two today. And
Sure. Well, thank you for reaching out.
of course, and getting this conversation going. So I want to start from just the beginning, a little introduction about yourselves, where you were born and where you started, kind of what you do and how and what led you to a bookstore.
Sure. So I guess I'll start ladies first, right?
Sure.
Very good. I was born here in Bridgeport. Grew up though in Southern California. Moved back here around 1988 with my son at the time, and never wanted to stay, especially for cold weather days like this. It's like, let me get back to sunny Southern California. But that never happened for me. So I've been here ever since. Now have a daughter as well, a couple of grandkids.
That black don't fact thing is true because you keep throwing these numbers and years. I'm like, who am I looking at here, right? I'm like, who am I looking at? Like, how old are you? But that's amazing. That's beautiful.
Just turned 58 in December. So
That's beautiful.
thank you. And I feel blessed. My grandfather, when I was a kid, I used to laugh at his age, and he said, "You'd be lucky to live this long." And at the time, I just continued to laugh. Now I know what he meant.
Now you're telling people.
Right, exactly. But I've always been an avid reader, especially, kind of being a transplant someplace else, didn't always fit in California. So I always just took the books. And so when I finally came back to Connecticut, there was a Black owned bookstore here in Bridgeport. And it was something that I've never seen, period. And I was just like all in at that point. And I had said, this is my life goal. I want to own a bookstore. And then, life happens and you just do the things that you do to, pay the bills and keep the lights on. And then opportunity present itself, but I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I too was born and raised in Bridgeport, on the east end of Bridgeport. It was a library, East End Branch, and the public library. That was the place I would go because I wouldn't get in trouble. So that was where I always found my place to explore, discover, and just, understanding the power of words and reading. Going through life and adulting, and they say, I, went away to school, then went into the service, then had family, and, I kind of moved away from reading, like I used to. I'm into coffee. So when you see me sipping what I'm sipping today, that's not a brand I would normally sip, but
Gotcha.
Very much a coffee snob. Very much.
Not to stop you, but the premise of this show, which hasn't been built out quite yet, it was supposed to be conversations over a cup of coffee.
Really?
So I haven't quite built out the whole thing, but eventually it will turn into coffee in different coffees. Because every time I travel, I buy coffee. So I got coffee from like all over the place, like Jamaica, Mexico, Colombia, wherever.
Nice.
So, but yeah, could be.
some Tanzanian coffee.
I try it. I gotta try it.
Anyway. I didn't really see a bookstore in my future. After my little stint in corporate world, I became firefighting in the city of Waterbury. And did that for almost 30 years, retired. And now, what do I do?
Right.
My wife's cousin, Karin here, she was talking about a book club at the time. And so my wife said, why don't you two get together? Coffee, books. So that started the idea. But the book club was the actual motion of what was going on. So we started this book club, and it reignited my idea that my love for reading really.
Nice. Nice. So, I mean, I'm from Stanford, obviously, but I know Bridgeport. I know the East End. I know how tough it could be growing up. So let's just really, before we get into like how you arrive here, how do you stay out of trouble enough, stay focused on books and do things like that at the same time of being brought up in an environment like the East End of Bridgeport?
Well, I you know what? Here's the funny thing. East End of Bridgeport used to be my version, or Bridgeport's version of Black Wall Street.
Mm.
When I walked out my door, there was a black grocery store. You know, it was a small market, but he provided to that community.
Mm-hmm.
It was a cool hall. There were the ice cream shop. It was a guy, he sold on Newfield Avenue. He sold lemon ice, Mr. Big John. But the thing about it is, factory. He had Mr. Braxton, Long Braxton Clothing. So we had places. We had music teachers out there. These were faces that looked like mine. So that was my neighborhood. Right. We had the Elks Club that used to have an annual parade going down Stratford Avenue. You know, that was my. So I never had an idea of what I couldn't do. And
I just thought that's important though. That is important for your eyes to take in. Because similarly, I grew up like that too. I seen black businesses, a couple corner stores, barbershops, liquor stores. That example is important.
And they,
that's right.
And you also knew you couldn't get in trouble because they knew your parents, so they go back and tell. And then there's also just the strength, and I'm gonna call it of black mothers. You know, at that time,
for real.
You know, you were afraid. You know.
I come from a black mother.
Okay.
A real black mother who called the police on the police. I seen this woman. Trust me, fearless. So, you know,
and you were afraid to get in trouble because you were more afraid of having to go home after you got in trouble.
That's right.
So, but that was the environment I grew up in. And when I saw, you know, things like when people saw me, they knew who I was. I knew my neighbors knew me, which was more. But no matter how many blocks down I knew, that phone call got back to my house. Like that, I was in trouble.
Right.
Unfortunately, because it was such a black space, so to speak, the city kind of, in my opinion, turned their backs on it. It's a food desert today. The people that own the corner stores don't look like the people that I seen this, and it's like, it's a bit devastating. When we first opened, we actually were in the Basin Center of Connecticut Avenue. Part of my youth, that area on Connecticut Avenue. It was like weird.
Right.
It was weird to see this what happened.
Right.
So, you know, and I think part of the reason why I'm kind of happy we're able to still exist as a business and show that, you know, you ain't giving a shit.
Right. In a black business, because Bridgeport certainly is changing. I mean, the talk of last week was the fact that there's apartments that are being built up that are going to be $9,000 a month.
So
like, they don't even charge that in Stanford.
So they did the few now, but so this thing that you're speaking of, obviously, they've ever been dealing with this for a long time, and it's starting to move. And I always knew Bridgeport was next though because it's waterfront, and we got to be smart here. We know what waterfront property does, and so I knew eventually they would let Bridgeport just fall low enough to be cheap enough to come in here and buy it up and do exactly what they're doing.
What they're doing now,
right now, because they did the same thing in Stanford. You know, when they have the Harbor Point, what they call the Harbor Point, that was the South End. Very black, very gray looking over there, and you know, a different place. And now it's like Harbor Point, and I'm like, you know, so this thing is moving up.
On the
with an E. Right. So this thing that Bridgeport is beginning to experience is going to take the whole state eventually.
And those are the kind of conversations that we actually have here. And so that's why, you know, we're not transactional here. You know, we're looking to engage people. Yes, we need to sell your book because we got to make rent just like every place else, but we're also trying to educate. And so if you end up picking a romance book, you're still going to get a little bit of conversation that's going to go way beyond what you initially came in for, just that romance read. And hopefully it'll get you back into something else that's gonna, feed your mind a little bit more. And that's not to say that because you read romance that you don't have other things going on.
Right.
But we're also just trying to educate people around what's going on in this town, that most of us have grown up in, and seeing the transformation, which, change always has to come, but it shouldn't exclude anybody, especially those that have been here. So again, those are the kind of conversations we have. Those are some of the workshops that we offer just to, how to get, awareness of certain situations and then how to improve. You can't read a book and not, again, depending upon the type of book it is, not walk away having learned something.
Right.
Even romance or something like that.
At least one on something.
Right.
Say, let me dig a little further.
Yeah.
Right. So, like I was telling you off the camera before we began, like for me, reading used to be something I was very excited about young. And then once I got in the street and kind of the environment kind of grabbed me, I turned away from the reading. Then once I got in trouble and was sat down with like nothing to do, I started reading again, right? Because I'm incarcerated, and I started with just entertaining myself. So like we said about like a romance novel, whatever. There wasn't much to learn from those books. I mean, you learn from reading. I think that reading is just good to spark your imagination and things like that. But I began with just like a lot of those hood novels and street novels. And they were entertaining, and it felt like sometimes the books would like carry me somewhere else. I was using the book like almost like a movie. It's like I would be reading a book and I'd be having like the radio play, and it felt like a soundtrack. It felt like I was somewhere else.
Right. Keeping your story going.
Yeah. I felt like I was still there, and not, and I think good books have the power to take you, to transport you somewhere else. But then it got to a point, like you said, where I needed more, and I wanted to actually feed my mind something that was going to help me in the long run. So I switched gears, but there was a time and place for those books as well.
And we don't carry urban.
Yeah.
We do want to kind of we'll order for you, but we don't stock it. It's not that we're highbrow or bougie, but we want to elevate the conversation. Absolutely. And the times now, especially, require it.
Of course.
And I have to say, fiction itself doesn't have to, like, you talk about it took you to another place. I think that's the biggest thing. When you read and understand that you go to other places to experience something that you're not experiencing. That stimulates curiosity.
Right.
I mean, you read a book like James by Percival Edinburgh. He reimagined the whole Huckleberry Finn, Mark Twain, and there was a character called Nigger Jim.
Right.
Well, his name is James. Just think about that. He gave that man his dignity.
Right.
And now you hear the story from James' eyes.
Right.
I was like, that's genius.
Right.
And so I think there is something in fiction, but and it can help you to build self in just their story and tell them a story that is a possibility. Then you get to the nonfiction where now let me tell you some facts, statistics, and it takes you another place and it builds upon it. So it's like you get that mix going. It's like a great like mixtape.
Right.
For real. You get to build from it and you get your groove.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
He's entertaining.
So, reading is very important. How many books a month would you say you read, or a year would you say you read?
I'm waiting for this answer.
Well,
She does a
collectively.
full-time
So again, we started off as a book club, online during times of quarantine. And then it morphed into, once we were able to assemble outside, we started doing the Black Wall Streets, the Juneteenth events as pop-ups. Bridgeport actually had not had a bookstore in over a decade.
Really?
And so when people start to see us out there, they were like, wait, does Bridgeport have a bookstore? And we'd be like, no, we're just doing this thing here.
Wow.
And then they kept asking. And finally we said, sure. And we went into an actual space. But one of the things that we kind of lost in that transition of moving into an actual space, being away from the bookstore, was the book club was the concept of actually reading the books. So now we have about 5 different book clubs or iterations of book clubs, and we, you know, definitely try to read each and every book. That way we can be participants. Most of them are member led, so it puts the onus on the member to pick the book and to lead the discussion. But we definitely try to read the book. So last year there was 20 books collectively that the store read. Did I read them all? No.
Okay.
Sometimes, depending upon the content, it just
I'm not laughing at you.
doesn't interest me. Oh, I know.
It's like behind you. It's like trying to cut them out.
But there are those that I lead, our summer reading series, which tend to be, the equivalent of a chick flick, right? He does not participate. I read each and every one of those in order to facilitate those discussions. We have a women's book club. I read all of those in order to, facilitate the discussion. We had one where the person that picked the book didn't realize that they needed to lead the discussion. So who jumps in?
Right.
I'm the owner. I got to make sure that everybody has a great experience. And so, we read what we can. And then there's our own personal books that we like to read because we got into this because we like to read. So there's books that I read that may be independent of the store as well. So yeah, so that's how it works. I don't know if you want to get into
I try 3 books a month. But I want to clarify. One, I do one.
So one is on
Audio. So in my travels, I'm always listening to a book.
Okay.
And then I'll read 2 physical books. So I tried, and that's my goal, is 3 a month.
Okay.
That was more putting it on route.
Right.
Now it's easy because, as Karin stated, we have book club, so it always have you're reading some point.
Right.
Then even sometimes I may not read a whole book. Like I just want to know something about it because you get asked questions all the times. I want to at least dig what I know.
Of course.
So,
do you find a difference in the way you digest it with the audio book versus the physical book?
let me say this. Audiobooks are tricky. I wouldn't read a nonfiction in the law notebook
Right.
because I'm too curious.
Right.
So I got, whoa. I need to be able to go back and research their research.
Right.
But if it's a good reader and they'll capture me, I can go through it and I can digest it. Well, it's usually fiction, but then I do listen to it because it's an entertainment value. But I still get my own vision on it. Right. Listen. But I prefer a physical book. Prefer to turn the page.
Right.
Prefer to get a paper cut every now and then and just say, "Oh yeah, that got me." You know,
Are you against the book, huh?
you know, there's a lot of things working. So yeah.
I find for myself is I think there's I don't know if there's ever been studied or anything like that, but I think there's just a difference in feeling it, having it in your hands, having to turn the page, having to be attentive, and having to hold your attention. It's just a little, I don't know. I can't, when I hear the audio, it's like, I feel like sometimes like in one ear, out the other, kind of a background type of thing, as opposed to something I'm really on there focused. That just, for me. So that's what I say.
And I tried. I can't.
Yeah.
We're embarking on a year of Toni Morrison.
Okay.
And I downloaded the Bluest Eye. And it's Toni Morrison, the late, great Toni Morrison, is narrating. It's her own voice. Well, I can't get into it that way. I can't. And it's like, if I feel like I've missed something, it's like, okay, how far do I go back to try to get there? So then I feel like I'm going back too far.
Okay.
I like to, kind of look at a word, try to pronounce the word if it's, foreign to me, or look it up. And I just feel like with the audio for myself, I would just probably let it pass. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
just to keep with the flow of the story. And so for me, it just doesn't work for me. So I don't do audio at all.
And like I said, I do it while doing things.
Right.
So my attention is not necessarily focus, but there's usually a story I can with.
Right.
You know, it becomes like looking at, you know, you binge watch something.
Right.
You're not picking up everything.
This one exactly like kind of background, you know, ambient noise kind of thing. So all right, so you started you had a store in the Bridgeport Innovation Center. So what leads you out of the Bridgeport?
You say store, we say room.
Okay. Right. I've been in there. So first of all, I've been in there, I told you. And they cut that thing up, they sliced that thing up. I mean, it's like people everywhere. I'm like door, person, business. I think it's a cool concept though. It's like let's put all these businesses under one, like a mall almost, you know, essentially.
And you're exactly right, because they took this big factory and they turned it into retail, whatever space.
There's a lot of things that were going
So much stuff, and it's so like mixed.
Right. So you can get anywhere from like 100 square feet up to up 1,000. So we got what we could afford at the time.
As you should. That's right.
And again, it was at that tail end of COVID. So it was so small that if 3 people came in, one of us had to stand in the hallway, just because, again, COVID was still in effect.
Right.
Overcrowd. We also didn't want to be the black bookstore that's staring down the black people as they're shopping, because we get that
Buying something.
enough. Right, exactly.
Black enough.
One of us would step out even to enable there to be a little bit more space. And so within a year, we outgrew it. Plus, it was upstairs. It wasn't accessible to everybody. And so it was like, you know, we got to find something else. And we had looked elsewhere, but because again of the whole COVID situation, you had so many spaces that were occupied but abandoned. So you didn't know what was actually, you know, available in terms of space, because people had just closed up shop. Everything that they were selling was still in the window, you know, and little dust accumulated. But again, you didn't know who was coming back. So when we were looking for space downtown, we couldn't find anything. And so the year there enabled us to get our sea legs as it relates to, you know, selling books. We were new to it.
Sure.
So we joined, you know, the book selling association. You know, we're legit.
I didn't even know there was a book. There was such a thing as the book selling association, but I'm glad you're a part of it. Right. That's right. Do your due diligence.
It gave us that opportunity where, again, the overhead was something that he and I could absorb, you know, if we needed to. But like I said, it gave us a chance to get our name out there. We still continue to do Black Wall Street. We still continue to do Juneteenth, and just make sure that people knew, you know, hey, we're over here, you know, if you want to catch us, you know. And when we moved here, we brought people with us. You know, we called them our day ones. You know, they like, oh yeah, you know, come to Dick, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. You know, thank you, you know, for still rocking with us, because also not only did Bridgeport not have a bookstore, but there wasn't anything in the surrounding areas. Now, here we are 5 years later, like within a 10-mile radius, there's at least 3 bookstores.
I think bookstores, not to cut you off though, because in Stanford, obviously we had Barnes and Noble there. Like, you know, we had another bookstore, a big one, closed. What was it? I forget, but they were closing. Borders. And so bookstores were experiencing like it looked like an end for a second. You know, it looked like, oh God, everybody's gonna go online, books only. But now it's seemingly making
What's the surgeons? Yeah, and it has
a
been
comeback
for a while.
It's kind of funny because Barnes and Noble, there's some else where polls and it's a Century store or somewhere up there.
And I think smaller businesses overall work better though than, you know, you got more autonomy here. You can make a decision today. Like, you know, we don't like this, change it.
Yeah.
When you talk about these corporate stores, it's too much. Like you can't get anything done.
Right.
It's too much red tape, you know.
And so, for example, where you and I met, it was for the story for Harriet Tubman.
Right.
I want to say that was
the Rita Jennings. So
Darien, or
was it New Canaan, or
it was New Canaan?
New Canaan, because she typically does her events in New Canaan.
And the reason why they were able to have Harriet Tubman's story told, and we know, you know, who Harriet Tubman was and how remarkable and what a great contribution, you know, to society she made, especially, you know, to our culture. But we're also in the era of Trump, where anything that looks Black is Black. You know, there's no funding for it. but because of where they are and the affluence that neighborhood had, they pay into, their own, they fund their own library.
Right.
And so they were able to have her come in and speak on the Harriet Tubman story. And so it just, again, goes to your autonomy that we have as independent bookstores that others may not have, especially if they rely on funding that may come from, local, state, or, federal funding. So, and some days we feel like maybe we should add in a few other books. We get a lot of people that walk in and walk right back out because they don't see themselves on the shelf.
Right.
But for us, it was more important that when we walk in the store, that we see ourselves on the shelves.
Right.
I had a conversation with a young man who said, should you put black on? Should you say black on? I'm like, well, we all know.
Right.
And, he was like, but doesn't that stop them? And say, doesn't stop other people from claiming who they are.
Right.
I said, and my point to him was, look, this is who we are.
Right.
Doesn't mean we're exclusive. It's just meant you get an idea of who we are. I always tell people going to the Barnes and Noble. I used to have to order books that I want to read because they didn't have them on their shelves.
Right.
And I come back and pick up my book.
Right.
So that's how it happens here. You want something that with having, you may not see your particular author, and the customer could be someone that look like me or someone who don't.
Right.
It doesn't matter because we read everything, and they say, "Look, can I get a James Patterson?" Oh, we don't have that one today. Well, I'll get it for you. Right. Oh, okay, just order it for me, and I'll come back. And that's been the relationship. So how we're themed, and that most independent bookstores are themed according to their owner.
Right. Their owners in their community.
Yeah.
Of course. So, so 2 stories. One, me and my family owned a liquor store downtown Stanford. And one of the customers had come in and said, well, why don't you advertise and blast that you're black owned? 90% of my customer base is white though. And so I said, for me to do that, I don't want to alienate population, make them feel like they can't shop here because it's black owned. But I'm black. When they come in, they'll see that I'm black. Everything here is black. Our music's playing is black. Everything's black. But I didn't want to alienate or box out a population of people and feel like they couldn't shop here. So I chose not to lead with black owned. I'm just black. I am black. I feel like I don't want to broadcast blackness. And this is just my view. I'm black. I shouldn't, we don't go into white owned business. It's just a good business. And I think that I didn't want to lead with that. I wanted to focus on it just being a really good, well-ran business and being black in a well-ran business as opposed to some of the other black. So
Great idea and concept. Like the young man conversation I had, he was referenced somebody that he knew on Canaan that was black, but refused to call themselves a black owned business. And what I told him is, he said because he didn't want to alienate people. I said, you ever notice that we're always concerned with who we alienate versus them being concerned with when they alienate us? I said, think about that. I said, as a business, you want to thrive. And and my ideal is this. You walk in here, you ain't gonna, you know who I am. You walk in here, you see them, like you said, your music, your who you are.
So one of the things that we always let people know is when you walk through the door, if you don't see it on the shelves, we can always order for it. And that kind of generally gets the conversation going. And then again, we're talking to people, if you haven't figured that out already. And so we're going to engage people where they're going to feel warm and welcome. And typically that's how most of the relationships have been fostered. And a lot of the people are still customers. That's one thing. But I also just want to take it back to earlier when you asked, how did you stay out of trouble? And he named off all of those local businesses that were black owned. It's important that we see ourselves. It's important that our children see ourselves. I can tell you that one of the stalest bookshelves that we have here is our juvenile and young adult. Okay. Parents come in here, they buy the baby books, the board books, where they read to them and, babies put them in their mouths and, they get whatever. And then they advance over to the picture books. So, at nighttime, we're reading them a bedtime story. But then when children become a little bit more self-sufficient,
Right.
they get a phone.
Right.
They get a gadget. And we have books that probably are too old to be on the shelf, but they're significant, and the stories that they're telling that we keep in hopes that somebody's going to pick it up for their 12-year-old, somebody's going to pick it up for their teenager for a book report, so on and so forth. If we're not here to let people know what the possibilities are, they won't know, especially if they're not reading about it. So representation, it does matter.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're trying to portray.
And I get why I thank you for being a competitor. I was going to bring it back to our open. But those businesses that I talked about earlier, as Karin was saying, that made a difference here. Yes, I saw it, so I knew they were. But the idea that someone across town may not know that, and they hear this, where's a place with black owned this is it's a difference. Now I say that to say this. People, if you're not coming in here because I said black owned, then you weren't coming in here it ain't nothing I'm gonna do the right key card here. So I always feel like sometimes we get scared of we scared of becoming a boogeyman when some people's mind already have us as the boogeyman. And that's my feeling about it. Not the kind of, it's just my light pushback because I just believe that shouldn't have an effect on anything. Why would that stop you? Because it don't stop me to go into Jones mayonnaise shop.
Right. But
it doesn't stop me because I'm gonna go if you got the best.
Right.
I'm gonna go.
Right.
If it's good,
And we do.
unless you do, and I get there and you treat me bad, then
so that right there, though. See, so I agree. So let's back up. So first of all, the representation is absolutely necessary. So I'm never saying, I don't want this to sound like I'm saying I'm dumbing down the black experience in my store. Never. I'm just saying I don't be with it because I don't want anyone to feel excluded. And so you said about you said something about this. Somebody puts it on the go first. I would prefer. All right, I would prefer. So the last thing you said was if you went into a store, they treated you bad. Conversely, my thing is, why would I leave a black home? Come in the store, see that I'm black. You'll see how I treat you, and then you'll come back. And so what you said was, if they're gonna count me out just for being black owned, then whatever. But the reality is, they will. They do. But I get that we just have. I get it.
Right,
It cannot bother us.
Right.
What I'm saying is now we got somebody at home making a decision just based off of verbiage. Now, if they came and talked to you, I'm sure they would love you. If they got into the store, had an interaction with you, you still be black. Everything, all things will still be the same. You still be black. You still be a black phone store, but then I see your character. It gives you the opportunity to meet that customer, where sometimes they get scared just from the charge of it. And so even with this brand, like I told you in the beginning, it's very charged, very politically, very black charged. And at first glance, they're like, what's going on? But when we have that conversation, then I'm able to break it down to them and they meet me at that level. But if I never got that conversation, guess what? You never had the opportunity to engage. So I like to hit them in first and then.
But can I say have two? I'm sorry, real quick. You had two ways that could go, right? They could look at what you're wearing and walk away, or they could look at what you're wearing and engage. And that's the same thing, you do. And it's not like we look for pity dollars, but, after George Floyd, you had people wanting to shop black.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so we became everybody's darling for that. You know what I'm saying? And we've also had opportunities because we're black. Jeezy was supposed to go up to UConn and they dropped out at the last minute. And he says, I want to go to now, while UConn is not, HBCU.
Right.
His second choice was find me a black bookstore in Connecticut. We were the only ones, and And so we got that opportunity because we were a Black-owned bookstore.
That's right. But let me also say this. I want to take you back. As a kid, my mother got sent to do a project in Baltimore. This was in the 60s. You go there. I wanted some PF flyers. That was hot back then. I very strange.
I've heard about it. It'll deport me now.
Me too.
I've heard this term.
Ran faster, jumped higher. You guys just don't understand that. Huh? Anyway, but if I was good on this trip, we would get these PF flyers. We went into a Buster Brown. Buster Brown was a shoe store. Unassuming, didn't know anything. We were new to the town. Walked in there. They refused to sell my mother PF flyers for her child. Now, I was too young to understand the whole.
What year was this?
This was 60, 4 or 5.
Okay.
So we come out the store. I'm upset.
Of course.
I ain't say that to her, but
This is traumatized. All my shoes.
so we end up coming back to Bridgeport, matter of fact, she was sent back early because when she showed up to do the job she was supposed to do, they saw she wasn't what they was expecting.
Right.
So she got sent back. Now, listen, I know it's in the 60s, but the idea is no one was worried about us and our business and our dollar.
Right.
That's my point.
Right.
So we got sent back here, went to my neighborhood, the shoe store in the neighborhood, sold me my PF flyers.
Sorry.
My point I'm making is, listen, if you're going to be taken back because I need you with Black owned, then you're going to be taken back with the look of me. You're going to be taken back with the shows. You're going to be taken back with a lot more things. And I say that to say this. I'm not trying to keep you. I want business.
Right.
But if you can't accept me, and that's the thing, sometimes we find ourselves and we have to pander to other people's tastes.
Right.
And and when it comes to self, I have a hard time pandering.
Right. And let me also just say, because I think, this particular topic can go a long way, right? Some of it also just depends on the business, right? And so when you go into a liquor store, I'm sure there's brands that you're going to carry just because.
All the Black brands.
Right. And then you're going to carry all the staples.
Of course.
At least when people come here, knowing that we're Black owned, if they were looking for something specific, chances are we either A, already have it, or B, know what they're referring to. So when Asada, passed, people reached out, do you have the book? You know what I'm saying? They didn't go to our neighbor in Black Rock.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it makes a difference, and it just helps people get what they're looking for maybe a little faster.
Absolutely.
And so I will leave it with that.
Yeah. So again, it's everything on my site, everything, metadata, everything we're registered with Black businesses, we're registered. Everything's Black.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, she making it like right on your windows type of thing. Like, look, I'm like, no, like, that's what I'm saying. And I do understand there is an absolute necessity for safe spaces for Black people. And that's what we provided. We were downtown Stanford. We were in the heart of the white thing, being very Black. You come to our store, you're going to hear like Brandy, R&B. You're going to hear Black stars. You're going to see me, my sister, and we never like sharing anything about it. I was just saying to leave it. But there's also opportunity that come just from our community.
Right.
And we wanted to let them know, like, come down here, it's fine. There are all types of tastings, and we try to culture our community, do our thing. But at the same time, dollar don't have the color. So I need to be mindful of that, of how I'm attracting the dollar. The same way we say we don't want to pander to them, they pander to us. So we could say that all we want, but we turn a Wendy's commercial, we hear Black music, pandering to our dollar.
Right.
So in marketing, just to move that emotional charge, because at the end of the day, we have a business to run, and we got to get every dollar. They don't get it. They don't care. They don't care when they turn Mary J. Blige on Burger King.
We tried that. Like 1 year, we got all of the New York Times summer reads. All right. They every year, they've got 1,001 lists. We bought literally every book. Now, maybe depending upon the title, we only bought one of them, but we had a whole table full. We put out an email blast. Folk came in, white people included, shot that table.
Yeah.
They probably already got that book from Barnes and Nobles. You know, we have authors that are integrated into the shelves, you know, depending upon what they write. Cause sometimes, you know, there was a guy most recently, and we don't have it cause of course it sells, who just, published a book on, Baldwin. White guy, he looks like Boney James, long curly hair. And it's now the leading authority on Baldwin. You know, it's a different perspective of his love life, which, you know, most people shied away from, especially us blacks, you know, shying away from anything LGBTQ.
Right.
And right now, probably it's one of the definitive works on Baldwin. He's white. We got to stop it because we gotta support the work related to Baldwin. So we're gonna do what we need to do in order to give our customers who are Baldwin fans, again, a definitive work on Baldwin.
And Baldwin as follows. Works because there's Eddie Saws and
Just saying, they wrote about Baldwin, and just like we would stock a Eddie Glow, we are also, you know, stocking.
So did you ever think about a podcast? Like turning a book club into a podcast?
TBS funny, you said.
Well, that's why we were asking you questions. Okay.
See? Oh, yeah. Because like all your discussions could be. And that is funny. We're sitting here. I'm like, you know,
I'm listening to you. I'm like, and we fight
a lot.
back and forth. I'm looking at like the little. Yeah, I see
all the little.
You can see
why do these two have a podcast where they're talking about these books in a book club or whatever, and they're putting out something.
I'm trying to shame me because I don't bring that.
Right.
Yeah.
You like lean on you.
I saw them up.
Right. And I'm trying to block them.
Right.
It's odd, but the way God made it odd, I can see from here all the way up there.
I'm trying to block them, but it's tough. It's tough.
But,
so I think that's I think, you know, it's a good example of we have things here that don't necessarily. I mean, it's 99, maybe 95% authors of color, but we do have other people that speak to other things that, you know, come and it's things that affect us in some ways or another. I think our biggest thing is being black owned, and I'll just put my little pin on this one is I don't look at it. I'm not using it as a badge, but I am using it as identity.
Absolutely.
And I think, you know, I'm not saying I'm putting it on the radio.
Right.
Black old Thoughts Bookstore.
So you start rioting. I'm gonna put it in.
right.
My big spaces, so please.
Because you Google us, I can say black old.
Exactly.
You know, I don't see that necessarily, but I do understand your point. And listen, we're all trying to make it. Like you want to sell, trying to sell my products, and that's what it comes down to. I get it, and so I won't. And when I started out with this conversation, I wasn't. I want him to understand. I can't shy away.
Never shrink it.
I can't shrink it, and I can't dress it up.
Yeah, I don't.
And I get what you're saying. You're like, I'm not beating with this.
Right. I wasn't an eye,
But
I'm not gonna like plaster it because they want it. That's why he's good at this. You know,
we've had that conversation. You know, like what could we be doing differently? We're in downtown Bridgeport again. The whole demographic is changing. And it's changing on purpose.
It's changed fast.
Right. And it's changing on purpose.
Next 2 years, gonna be
the political scene is changing, you know, so there's things coming that we still don't know what that's going to look like. You know, for most Americans, but especially us Black and Brown Americans. And so again, these are definitely conversations that we've had. And I think most businesses have to wrestle with is how do you get to that next level? You know, is there something that you're leaving on the table? You know, I want
to tell you right now,
opportunities.
You are leaving this podcast thing on the table or some type of visual because you are Black. So yeah, it's sweet to hear about you, but to get to know you, to have this conversation, see your personalities, it's like y'all, that is a seller.
Yeah.
That in itself, and it's just my opinion. That should be showcased and highlighted as well. And I think that if people could buy into you and you as well, that will also bring people in because it's bigger than just a bookstore. If I'm online, I'm looking for bookstore, sure. But it doesn't tell this.
Right.
It doesn't tell this. You know what I mean?
Right.
The mission. It doesn't, it doesn't tell us that.
Yeah. And there's some personal and internal hurdles and things that we have to get past.
Just turn the camera on and talk. Just turn.
And that's
turn the
really
camera
what
on and
we
talk.
have to do.
Yeah.
It's and we've had that debate also.
Just turn it on and go.
We have a laundry list of things that we want to do for the store. Interviewing people. What's your favorite book? So on and so forth.
Yeah.
Don't steal our ideas, people. But we just really have to do it. And running the business is hard.
Right? I appreciate you saying that. Because when we started and you talk about you and your book, I said, just right.
Right.
You gotta just start.
Right. Yeah.
The Bible told you, they said faithful mustard seed. You gotta start. And most people get locked in here. We're trying to be perfectionists and gotta be this, it gotta be that. How about you just start it?
Right.
And as you go, you'll learn. You see, let me check my camera, y'all. Just me. Like, I'm not a professional videographer. 3 years ago, I didn't know how to use a camera. I mean, when somebody, that's a whole nother story. But when somebody gifted me this camera, I had to sit in my studio, clicking it, messing with it, right here with it, so I earned it. Right. And I treated it like a baby, and my expectation wasn't so high. And I expected to make mistakes, and I was okay with the mistakes, and I learned as I went. And I think a lot of us, we waiting for the perfect time when it never gonna come. You're gonna legally be locked till 2027. So I'm like, I wonder how I would do this. Instead of just doing it and making the changes on the way, and then eventually look back and you see a finished product. You gotta just
You just brought the gem because Kindred Thoughts is that type project. We ain't no way.
Right.
We
you just some boxing gloves, some soccer marbles.
Well, since she came out, I'm gonna just say I knew what I was doing, but I wanted you to feel comfortable. No, we had to grow, and we had some hard knock realities. Just the book selling business is not exactly. I thought it was this nice, mild.
Sammy been, man. Expectation is not always aligned with reality. But I think that most people, again, they think. They never go. Eventually, you got to get out of thinking, ideation, and bring it to creation.
We have a button that says professional overthinker, and that's what we.
And most overthinkers already think of the worst case scenario,
Right.
And most times we just doomsday thinkers. And so, I'm
owning it.
We get into to be a doomsday
It's like
thinker.
those socks behind you as an example. I want to buy the socks.
Let's go to socks.
And Derek's like, nobody's going to.
Somebody gonna buy these socks. They're doing all this stuff.
We all know. I mean, we
gonna buy
bought
these
about
socks.
20, 30 pair. One person came and bought 6 pairs.
That's right. It's true there every time. That's right. And keep showing there. Lead by example, okay? Keep showing him that he don't know what he's talking about.
First of all,
This is
the let's pick
Don't
Derek
argue with
apart
Derek, okay?
podcast.
Don't you argue with him.
But it was okay when you want to say how many books I
Don't
did
you
not
argue.
read,
You
right?
just keep showing up,
But,
right? Yeah.
But no, it's all in love, and it's a family business, and I wouldn't do it with anybody else, and I'm sure he would say the same.
Word.
You better say this. You better say this.
Yourself. But no, I think I have, again, 5 years. I know sometimes their businesses, I've been doing this almost 3 years with this, almost over a year with this. And our expectation is like, I thought, okay, I'm going to drop these clothes and I'm going to be like out of here the next day, such a powerful message. We believe in what we believe in.
Right.
And we believe everybody should believe that. But that's not like the case.
Right.
So here I am almost year 3, still working and still figuring it out. But again, here you are in year 5 and you're still adding in and changing and, that's it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. And I think that we accept it as that and we look at it as that, it'll allow you to flow more freely. Stop thinking, just go.
Just do it. Yeah.
the worst that could happen is nothing happens, and you say
Right.
it's something else, and
Right.
big deal.
Right.
We've get
And we've
stuff,
had many of those moments.
like,
So it's a big deal.
like it didn't work out the way I wanted to.
Right.
Right.
Let's go a different direction. Let's pivot.
Mhm.
But when you just I saw double dutch.
Mhm.
You twisting that rope.
Mhm.
And back, you be like,
Right.
you see them people that just like stand, they like jump in the rope.
Right. Right.
Like that's this. A lot of us thinking is just looking at the rope. We're like trying to find a perfect time.
Mhm.
Just jump.
Mhm.
Just get in there, and you'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm not gonna jump in triple jump.
no.
That ain't gonna work out.
I know you saw it.
I saw it.
And I had my moment with it was still fucking. I said, you know what? We're gonna go with the single rope.
I had to get up with the girls, man. So let me turn. Let me turn for y'all.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I chopped the turn. I got
Well, that because I ain't turning right.
to work it.
I know they talk never gonna win. Starts young, goes forever. You're never gonna do it right ever. But yeah, I think that again, these spaces are necessary. Reading is you used to hear it as a child, like reading is fundamental. Reading is fundamental. We used to hear these things, and it's like, as I've aged, it's true. When I was a kid, it sounded like just these things you hear all the time and cliche things. But now, I read so many books. Like I read the whole Bible. Like that was a tough read.
Mhm.
That's a tough read.
It is.
For someone to just sit and read the Bible,
Well, I didn't just sit. I was in a hole. I was in
I get you.
20 hours in there. I'm like,
Mhm.
I gotta read
But
something.
you can read
That.
Yeah.
all
things.
things.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's even
when we read it,
It's a tough read.
it's like,
It's a tough read. And I didn't understand any of it, but that was the first book that kind of just
wow.
really put you on this quest of like knowledge and everything. I started reading everything after that. But like I said, books take your mind elsewhere, and they put you places and they teach you things. You see words in them that you never, heard.
Mhm.
You hear about places you never heard of. So reading is really fundamental, I think, for imagination purposes and just creatively get your mind moving in a critical thinking space.
Yeah.
That's like a lost art.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
It's like a lost thing.
Yeah.
I was telling this young lady that she used to come to our read alouds with another one of our young friends when we used to do it, and she likes reading. Now it seems that the young girls are more readers than our young men. But I was telling the mother about the trajectory of people who read and their career paths and what life opens up for them versus those that don't read or fall off from that. And it's amazing. And these are scientific studies, and you're sitting there like, wow,
Right.
It makes that much of a difference. But it opens you up. Critical thinking being one of the major things that happen, and also just I mentioned curiosity because you don't look into something unless you're curious.
Right.
But when you start opening up there, I read this book. It's called Harlem Rhapsody, and it's a story of W.E.B. Du Bois. He's part of it, but it's more of a story of this unknown author. This is a historical fiction.
Right.
And I was reading stuff. I was like, that really? I end up digging deeper than what was given to me because I was like, oh my goodness. W.E.B. Du Bois to me I was like, man is what?
Right.
Because I didn't realize he had that reputation. I don't want to spoil for those.
Right. And that's another great thing that books do is two things. One is they give you other perspectives because your perspective is not always right. Although we feel conviction and we feel correct, sometimes you're still wrong. All the people loud, wrong and strong. We just loud and wrong. And so it gives different perspectives. And also because, you don't know what you don't know is real.
Yeah.
And sometimes until you see it, you won't know it even exists. And books can do that for you. They can put something into your world that you never even knew was a possibility.
Yes.
That's so I think it's very important to read. And I think our community, like we talked about, like I told you that old thing they said, if you want to hide something from us, put it in a book.
Right.
It's very true. Because I can't get people to read. And so like how do we engage our communities to read and seek the information? Because there's some stuff, like I read a book, it was a knowledge book, but this book was like 200 years old. And when I'm reading the information, I'm like, wow, people knew this stuff 200 years ago. Like I'm just learning this now. And like, wow, like this is how far behind I am in in the knowledge space was like, whoa, somebody felt it compelling enough 200 years ago to write this whole long book. So this information has been around, and I've been operating my whole life without this information.
Mhm.
It's like, now that I have it, I'm like, oh my God, it's so empowering. It's
Right.
just
Yeah.
really helping me elevate life. And it's just, it's so much information in books.
There is. And I just think sometimes it's like once you crack a book, and especially one where you sit and learn, and you're like, it makes you, it kind of creates its own thirst.
Right.
To make you keep going back and saying, wait, I want to find something else that's takes me down this other path.
So what is the best book you ever read? So here's the question. The best book you ever read, or maybe the most influential book or impactful book. And then also, what is your goal and vision for this bookstore? What would you like to see over the next 3 years, especially with a chain in Bridgeport and everything? What would you like to happen in this space, ideally, the next year? So it's 2-part questions.
So for me, growing up, my favorite book was Man, Child, the Promised Land by Claude New Brown. And the story is one of a young boy who grew up in Harlem, quote unquote, the promised land. But it was during the era in which heroin was introduced, and you see the devastation. Somehow he makes it through in spite of, and it's more autobiographical. But if you look at the title in and of itself, Man Child, that's him,
Right.
Young man can grow in the promised land, never kind of connected what the promised land was. I first read it when I was probably about 16 years old. And just, I had an aunt who unfortunately fell into heroin and had to hear from Harlem, to kind of not shame the family.
Right.
So for me, it gave me a better idea of who she was and what her life may have been like.
Right.
Years later, coming into the bookstore and starting online as a book club, in a book called Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson. And it is the story of the Great Migration of people coming up from the South, 2 points, West, North, and East. And she interviews thousands of people over the course of, her study for this book. And she lands on the stories of 4 people. And in reading that book, first off, I never even knew what the Great Migration was. When I think Great Migration, I think of the wildebeest over in Africa and how they do.
That's what they told us, the Great Migration, right?
That's what that's called. And so having read books and knowing about that, that's what I thought that was. I didn't know that our people leaving the Jim Crow South was called the Great Migration.
Right.
So 1, it gave me that introduction. 2, it just gave me a lot of the historical context of how we ended up. I always tell people that while we do a Black History program, in which we do, so look out for that in February, our story didn't begin here. It actually started on the shores of Africa and the continent of Africa. And so this is a picture book that has like 1 or 2 pages dedicated to each one of the countries. And, it gives the minerals, it gives a little history about the people, the language, so on and so forth. And, the intention is that you read it to your child, but then you learn something along the way as well. But, for the child, they also just get to learn a little bit more about the continent of Africa. So those are my 3 favorite books.
Right.
What I would like to see for this bookstore here in Bridgeport, 1 is that we sustain ourselves. Again, a lot happening here in Bridgeport. There's no librarians in our school system right now because of them being over budget. Again, we have a stale shelf where kids that are of a certain age between juvenile and young adult, maybe their parents are bringing them to the libraries, but I'd like to just see readership increase, especially in our schools. Bridgeport, you can charge as much as you want for the rent, but they're not going to get people to stay here if they're bringing in or expecting people who are coming in of childbearing age to have to go to the Bridgeport school system. So if we can supplement that and help our children especially know who a Toni Morrison is, know who a Richard Wright is, know who a James Baldwin is, then I feel like, 10 years from now, when maybe I'm going to give this up because I want to be somewhere, in the sun, that we've done our job. And it's cold out.
He said he's 8 years old finding out that you're playing some exit.
Wow, she got an
It's
exit plan.
he learns a day about the
Maybe,
exit
maybe I'll
plan.
be a snowbird, but
Wow.
it's cold out there.
So I'm gonna cheat like she did. She gave you 3. I'm gonna give you 4 and a bonus.
You know that, right?
I'll do her, man.
Right.
The reason I'm breaking mines up, I'm gonna give it to you. So nonfiction.
Okay.
I'm gonna have Benicio Coates, Between the World and Me.
I had gotten that book and never read it though, but I heard so much about. I have the book. I just have to sit down and really read
Well,
it.
before you read that,
Uh-huh.
my second nonfiction would be James Baldwin. It's The Fire Next Time but it's his letter to his nephew, because those two are so parallel. But it talks about where we are and talking down to these young Coates is to his son, but you speaking about where we are, but how do you get through? So you talk about that, how do you get through? And that I think those have such an impact.
Yeah.
So I was saying, as a father, and you think about, I have 2 sons, and you want to say something to them or leave them something, and they're young. So young people today grow up with a different perspective than someone that went through the experience, like I told you with my mother. They benefited from me having benefited from what happened before, the shoulders I stood on. And when I think Coates telling that story from his perspective and him being younger than me, but having this conversation with his sons versus Baldwin talking to his nephew who's going through something, and his nephew will go through something. I think the way that those parallels and there's so much to extract as a young Black person coming through the society that you're trying to fit in. And, like I always tell people, you don't try to be, it's not like I'm trying to see where do I fit as a Black person.
Right.
I just want to know, how do I get good on and go about it? I'm not focused on that. I love my community. I always will, but I'm best because of the way I was raised and what I gone through. But how do I also look at Derek as I'm trying to achieve or trying to, reach a goal of my own? So that's one of those 2 I put as my favorite. You're going to California. So there's another, I'm going to just use one. I'm not going to go with 2. But a fiction book, I'm going to say The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois. This book is 800 pages. When it came into our store and we were back in it, it's this big, thick, heavy book, but the pages were patterned the way it was designed. So it was like that.
Tactile.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just like this weird.
Only
Beautiful.
book you were like pages.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
When we were talking about that
Beautiful.
earlier, that I was going to bring this up. I mean, the subject changed, but I was like, this book, and when you started reading it, and it's an intergenerational story, has little to do with W.E.B. Du Bois, but it's a story about trauma, this family, a well-to-do family, but the trauma that they went through, and then you have the heroines, this young girl who's the heroine through it, and watching her go through and manage with family and going through the things through her college days, and you're sitting there reading this thing, and you're just like, that was the Honorine Jepper is the author. First novel, first book. She's a poet, so she's written poetry, but this is her first novel that was released, and she was so Toni Morrison-esque. and because not everyone could do that transgenerational type story. She does a great job with it, but it draws you in. I gotta find out, and there's some tragic stuff in there, but you're still like, and I've been pushing this book since I read it. And I know everybody looks at it like, nah, I'll pass.
Yeah, it's right.
This books, I'm like looking at them and myself, I'm like, I gotta read it, man.
Yeah,
But I gotta really make sure I have like the bandwidth to really sit and get it because
And it's amazing. And Karin will attest to it, I hope. But I pushed this book so much. I've had so many. There's probably one book I'll personally say that I've sold at least.
And that we've probably sold the most of, independent of a book club book, because we tend to sell a lot of those. But yeah, we've sold a lot of them. It's like, oh, there Derek goes again,
But it's a story that I just think everybody kind of just like, wow.
And people fall in love with it.
Yeah.
If you do any type of search on it and you find a forum, people love what's also the voice. Yeah.
So, and then I said my fifth one, which, well, it's fourth now because I took one off.
yeah, you did.
But so I'll just say this, and my honorable mention is going to be Black AF history.
Okay.
Let me tell you, everyone should own this book. Everyone. And the reason I say that, Michael Harriet was the writer. It's like how we're talking now. That's how that's how he's talking to you as you read it. It's like you at the family picnic and Unc's got the floor and you just having this conversation, but he's spitting facts to you and things that you didn't know, those unknown things, those things that says, no, you know how a lot of young people like say, I ate my ancestors. Well, you are your ancestor. You are your ancestor. Because when you read about that, that's your ancestor.
Right. And it was sad.
And it was pure people. And you stand because of them folks.
Yeah.
So
I hate
to not hear. At least
this jacket is called The Ancestor.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Is
It's
it-
like
It's like these people is powerful.
we need to see more than that,
You're not gonna, you're not
especially for what's coming.
Right.
So I just think that book right there kind of gets rid of that narrative and talks about who we are, and there's stories that you don't hear, that's not put out on Front Street, right? But there's stories of resistance and survival,
Right.
And so there's a book like that for me. I push on everybody. It's called Three Magic Words. And it's really just a book about, it's like knowledge book and self-help, but it's a book that just opened my mind up in such a way. I push it to hundreds of people. So I understand when you connect with something like that personally, how you just really attest to it. And it's a very transformative book for me in my mind. So I understand that passion-driven selling that you're doing. But for me, just looking at this space and the business you've created, again, you asked about art. Is it thing to leave it on the table? And I'm like, yeah, just from my interaction with you, and obviously I think you guys should start some more public discussion. Get on camera, just turn on camera. If you're in the States, it's okay. Because in case they don't know, when I edit, there'll be tons of mistakes that we know happened, right? But they won't know in the edits.
I don't make this.
No, really.
that's a mistake. But that's a mistake.
Goodness.
But so I think you do that. And also, I don't know if you have or not, but have you ever tried to reach out to some of the schools around here to try to get maybe a program or something you can work with the schools where you come into the school and maybe do a read or introduce with the kids or something like that, where you have a pipeline to the schools? When you did say you wanted to see the leadership go up and different things in the schools.
And we've done that on occasion. We need to,
because I'm friends with a guy. I want to say he's still principal, but I think he at Bridge Academy. And so I could easily introduce you to him, and maybe there's opportunity here. Just all those. So
yeah,
I don't know.
definitely open. But let me run down some of the things that we're doing in the store.
Okay.
So we stated that we have quite a few book clubs. So we have Reading the Classics, which we've been doing ever since we've been here. So we're now in our third year on that. And once a quarter, we read classic Black literature. So that's your Morrisons, that's your Baldwins, that's your Wrights, your Ellisons, and so on and so forth. I'm sorry? Not yet. But what we want is, again, for people to have read some of our great writers, right? Especially now we're in the social media age. Everybody wants to post up a picture. They want to post a quote, but they've not actually read the author and their story. So once a quarter, we do that. And it also just helps people get through some of the more, challenging content. Some of the language might be a little different. So again, it just kind of helps orient you to what is actually being told in the story. So we have that once a quarter. We also have the Kindred Book Club, which is a member-led book club. It's also multi-generational, it's multicultural. The people pick the book, which means that we read anything, anything. If they pick it, we read it and we discuss it. And those happen every other month. And we've been doing that now for this is the beginning of our third year. And those are quite successful. We also have our summer reading series. So during the months of June, July, August, we typically again do lighter reading. So like beach reads. Last year we did a Kennedy Ryan series that just was like OMG, like the whole, how Beyonce has the Beehive.
Right.
Kennedy Ryan has her
Like a cult following, huh?
cult-like following.
Nice.
And so born out of that, because we did a series of hers, the people that came for the first, came for the second, came for the third. By the time we did the third one, we actually took it to 29 Marco Restaurant, which is also, it was in August, which is Black Business Month. And so we were able to patronize a Black business. About 15 women showed up. And these women were, how's your kids? How's your husband? How was vacation? That coworker, that boss that got on your nerves, how's things going?
Right.
Just over the 3 months that they met. So born out of that, they wanted to continue to meet. We also have the Good Girlfriends Book Club. So they meet monthly. So again, that's where all this reading comes in. And that too is member led. So somebody from the group will then pick a book and then we read it and we discuss it. Like, beverages and, things,
You got to set the tone.
we got to set the atmosphere.
Gotta be
So,
comfortable.
we have the summer reading series, which takes place June, July, August. This past summer, we did the Kennedy Ryan series, and we ended up at a local restaurant, 29 Marco, in which 15 women came together. And because they had all met month after month, they started bringing their own good girlfriends to participate. They wanted to continue to meet. So we then launched the Good Girlfriends Book Club because, again, everybody became a good girlfriend or they bought their good girlfriend. But it kept growing because, people had a shared love for Kennedy Ryan and for books. So we have that. We also have the Brothers in Books book discussion group, which is where the guys meet. They pick a book. It too is member led, and then they discuss the book. They meet once a month. And then we've been doing the 1619 series since June, July. Once the current administration got into office, we had a lot of people that came in distressed, distraught, some crying. If they had our phone numbers and were sending texts. I mean, it was crazy.
Right.
Just the sheer angst and anxiety that people have around this administration.
Right.
And so they would come into the bookstore. They felt, again, this was a safe space, not necessarily to shop, but just to say, oh my God, this is going on. And we'd have all of these independent, disparate conversations with people. And we were like, how can we be a little bit more effective in trying to, allow people to be heard, but also maybe bring in some resources and some information that can help them. So looking at the 1619 project, which is a great book, by the way, it is broken down by different chapters. And we figured we would take one chapter a month. So it's actually an 18-month series. So again, we did the first 6 months, and then we'll take it through December of this year, where we read the chapter itself, which provides a lot of great foundational information on why, this country is and treats us the way that it does, why some of the laws have been established. And then we have somebody that's a subject matter expert on that particular chapter come in and then give us the update of, okay, this is what you may experience today, or this is how you can combat it today. These are some, tools to put into your arsenal for, how to respond today.
Yeah.
So we've been doing that. That's once a month. And then beginning this month in January, we are doing a year of Toni Morrison. And so we'll do 11 of her books, and starting off with The Bluest Eye in a couple of weeks. So again, we're a bookstore that actually reads.
You got events going.
Yep.
That's why I
we
think
have
it's
all
important
types
just
of
that,
events.
just to try to give you some light, and like people got to know
Right.
this is happening.
Right. We get called in for events. So, there have been other players who have had authors come in to, Norwalk, Stanford. They call us. We provide the books. That's where you and I met for the Harriet Tubman book. So, we go out and we support the community. We participate, in Black Wall Street, Juneteenth. So again, we're out there. We're part of the community. We're a community bookstore. And
Also, 5 years set up at because that organization who put on, well, I don't know if they put it on, but they were involved in that Be the Jettis thing is a nonprofit, and they do a Juneteenth event in Karin as well.
We did well.
yeah, we've done a few, and of course,
Her organization, they do a work in New Canaan,
Okay.
and so again, that
Yeah.
just
we could reach back out, but what happens is, there's only a few days, right, surrounding the event, and then we try to be local as well. We've gone up as far as Hartford. We've been to Stanford for Black History Month.
Was it Diageo that brought us in? Diageo, best of
Yeah. They have a phenomenal, employee resource group centered around, the Black employees, and for Black History Month, they brought us in for that. So yeah, we're open. We do bulk sales. We work with a lot of churches that will do Bible study programs. So we'll order the books for them, give them a discount as well. And in some schools, private schools, universities, that have the autonomy to order their books where they choose, and so they've used us for that as well.
So we keep. I think the idea is to let people know, back to this Black owned thing. What Black owned is just who we are. But what we do is try to reach people where they are. Right. And that's the big thing. And especially when we look at our community, the collective community, it means a lot to us. But our greater community also has a statement for us. I think we know. We know what we're trying to do, know who we're trying to touch. And again, I think we all go back to them and bring it back to that grassroots, who I am, who Karin is. We look at what made us tick, what made us grow, what allowed us to be here at this point. When how can I do that? What we call a reach down, was pull up Tyson. So that's what I think we really want to be about. We always said, if the community don't find value in us, then we're not going to make it.
Right. So, well, I had a book that my mom had, and it just kind of sat around the closet. We always saw it. It's an Hebrew almanac. And I recall that if you look on my page, I read facts out of it. It's about this big. It got like every event that's happening for us. It's such a wealth book. It got so much information. And like you said, like this administration thing is going on at a time where so many facts are being changed and manipulated or erased.
Yeah.
It's important to have this stuff like documented as well as in books. This book, they don't even sell it. Like it's an old book.
Hey, I think where did I see that? Because it was somebody's book, and I was amazed.
I have that book, so every now and then I'll crack it open and read like a fact, Civil Rights Act 1875. I'm like, that, you know what I'm saying? There's different things, so it's important to me. But again, I do believe I have, something here. This is a beautiful space. It's centrally located. And I think that, sky's the limit. Just depends on who you guys take. Y'all should get on camera now.
Well, we're going to take
Instagram Live. Just turn on Instagram Live.
I set you up a little tripod. You do your book club. No fault, Just turn it on, don't even look at it, and be yourself. I think we definitely, We'll discuss
Yep,
that.
we will.
And we'll be looking to super
Very soon, right? Yeah.
Whatever I could do to facilitate.
We'll definitely call you.
Please, he hesitate.
Excuse me,
Might
Just
need help.
to shift this.
Please, again, whatever I could do, you know, like I said, we got a book bag giveaway coming up in
And whatever we can do
yeah,
also.
soon,
you
yeah.
know.
But whatever.
Mhm.
Because essentially what we want in our giveaway is we want to also have resources out there. So again, I started small. I had no qualms with like starting where I'm at.
Mhm.
And everybody should be there. Start with what you got.
Right.
And so over years we're building, but eventually what I would like to see is we're giving out the book bags, cool, but we're also giving out a table, resources here, there, around different information and resources for our communities so we can really impact and affect the communities. I think that the work has to happen in the communities. I think that sometimes we get locked in space, like our spaces. And so I go out, like how you go out too.
Right.
Go out. You gotta go like almost like a missionary. You gotta go into
Mhm.
the communities and be seen and be present.
Mhm.
Stamping so different when I was there. I was like, oh, this is not what it used to be in Grang. This is
Yeah. And it's changing.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so
You know,
but it's crazy when you think as a kid Stanford was like the towel town, so to speak. And you look at it and you're just like, it's grown since that I used to work at Harbor Point. And I was like, then I was amazed. Now you go back there, you're like,
Right. Right. Yeah.
but they do a good job. It's very diverse.
Mhm.
And they're hiring lots of black cops and they do a really good job with just being progressive and being diverse.
Mhm.
And they support a lot of endeavors and things that even our book bag in the way, they give us money for our computer lab we're building. Like
Mhm.
it's very inclusive. It's not, a lot of people would think about Stanford, they'll think like white.
Mhm.
It is white.
Mhm.
It is a lot white, but
Mhm.
there are a lot of us still there,
Right.
still thriving. The mayor's personal assistant, she's a black woman.
Mhm.
So it's very inclusive and it's lots of opportunities. So again, anything I could help you with or
Mhm.
connect you with, I'm more than willing.
Great. Well, thank you. We'll definitely take you up on it. So yeah.
go up. You know, we're sitting watching and we're scratching our head around what's happening around here. Right. Because you know, you mentioned waterfront and that's definitely
It's a signal. That's the series. You see this order, just know.
Hey, I love my East End, and I look at it, I said they were choked off and the prices dropped. They were already low, but they bottomed out. Now all these LLCs came,
That's up.
bought up all these properties.
Mhm.
Now the rent's jacking up. The people that are down there are no longer, but the worst part about it is we as the people of the city fund that through tax breaks and what have you, but we're not the beneficiaries, right?
Really.
Let's get for us. That's good. We got a state of the art. Because I think of Harbor Point, and I start thinking about our state of the art marina we have.
It's happening.
It's
Yeah.
It is
happening.
Yeah.
It is happening. So again, you know,
And I don't know.
I know what's happening.
I had a chance to go and learn how to sail or got just
This is right. So that's what we do. You know, we want to bring that information
Mhm.
right to the people.
Mhm.
You know, the onus. I can't put the onus on them. If you don't know what you don't know,
Right.
I can't expect them to seek me
Mhm.
because they don't even know what they're seeking.
Mhm.
I know what they're lacking.
Mhm.
So I bring that to that community,
Mhm.
right into the heart.
Yeah.
wow. That's a heck of a statement.
I can't even expect that. It's like unrealistic expectations. They don't know what I know.
Right.
They don't think how I think.
Mhm.
I think how I think. I know what I know.
Mhm.
So I'll shepherd them. I'll come with them and
And share.
I was from the host,
Yeah.
not them.
Yeah.
I'm the one going into all these spaces, taking the information in and bringing it back to them.
Yeah.
I look safe, but I ain't safe.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
I love it.
I go into all the wrongs, and
Mhm.
well, if you're gonna be mad at me,
You gonna see us on our podcast, my
But I am saying.
and I tell you, perception is real. I told you I have a guy I train, and not to say too much about the guy, he's an older guy
Mhm.
from another country, lots of money.
Mhm.
And he made a statement one day to me, and it blew my mind
Mhm.
because he said it to me.
Mhm.
He's like, Mike, can I be honest with you here? I'm like, what's up? I can't hire black people.
Mhm.
I'm like, bud,
Right.
hello, I'm black. What are you
Right.
talking about?
Right.
Not like you, not you black. Like, not you black.
Mm.
He was referring to dark skinned
Mm.
black people.
Mm.
But in his mind, in his heart of hearts, he
Mhm.
believes there's a fundamental difference
Mm.
between a dark skinned black and me.
Mm.
So for me, now, again, this is why we got to remove our feelings too, because you can get charged up. It was an opportunity to teach him and to educate him and let him know that this is the same thing. I'm the same black, like the guy with the dreads, like whatever. It's the same black experience. But I was able to, he understood. And again, we had to have that conversation. That's interesting. But he truly is hard-hearted to believe that. And this guy that shows a lot of money, you know? And so imagine hiring people or whomever saying that to themselves and really moving in that energy.
Well, see, that's interesting because I remember.
We supposed to be editing this, but look, see?
Right.
So I remember one time when I was, it was someone white that said this to me, and we was the same type thing. He says, "But no, not like you, Derek." And I said, "Well, let me explain something." Because once I understood where he was going, I said, "Let me tell you, my father's dark skin, my grandmother's dark skin, my cousins all darker than me. So you're saying something that hurts me, right?" I said, "And guess what? And we all are able to do everything that you see in me because they're the ones that built. It's only his."
Right.
And he looked at me and he was like, "Well, and he kind of got," and I said, and I was angry. I was younger too. Yeah, so that was a difference. I see that as something that we as I guess it's the hardest thing to fight against because I also been around our folk where they do a light skin joke. And I got to deal with that. And I always tell, and I'm not one that, you know, I could be there. I could throw some barbs out there, you know, because I try to cut it short, you know, but when people come that, and I'm like, this is why I believe we need to understand us. And that's why I believe in these books. I believe that reading, I believe to understand that, don't go by looks, because that's what we've been fighting, right? It's just looks. Let's go by something else. Understand culture. Right. Understand the journey or why we're so many shades. Understand the journey because we're all in the same boat at the end of the day. It's trying to get some type of sense of equity. And I went to something where Roland Martin was speaking on, Roland could be a blowhard sometimes to me, but I like his, because he was smart too. And he said, "I'm not looking to be fair." And I'm not paraphrasing. I'm not looking to be fair because when I'm looking for equity, and people don't understand equity, it's like when I'm born, I'm fair, and and there's a point about being fair. You could be fair to me, but that doesn't put us equal, right? And equity is an important part of this whole conversation. And that man, he threw me off when he. So I lost my head.
What up for him, Rob? Maybe you want to just go grab him and make us stuff. Oh, what happened? No. But yeah, so, but because that perception exists and people truly believe that, that's also a space you got to navigate. And again, I didn't want to get angry because once I get emotionally charged, it takes away from the logical.
Right.
And so that's another thing too, us black people.
You also don't want to feed into a stereotype.
Like, and not to mention, that's his experience. He has things that he is basing that opinion on. I can't be valued his actual experience. He experienced some things that reinforce his already bad belief system, so I had the opportunity to undo some of that bad thinking.
Well, that's good because I tell you, there was someone who's a dark skinned man that is prominent, and he said something on those terms, in the community, and I didn't think the backlash was as within the same measure it should have been given. And I always look at it as when we start, you can't say you want equality and you don't, and then you yourself start going by these tropes that drive you. Because in my head, I'm like, look, you're a good worker. It's just like people come in my store. You cool or you're not cool? Right. Yeah, you hit it cool. We're okay. But when you become not cool, that's different. I know how to divorce myself of that. We are quits.
That's right. Well, listen, before we open another can of worms,
Right,
we could,
right.
I want to go down there. I know we'll follow what
We gotta do
you know.
part two.
And we could do it part 2, part 3, part 4, whatever. You know what I mean? But it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with us too.
Thank you.
I want to see yours. I want to see y'all keep going and keep doing what y'all do.
Looking to hear
More from you, man.
Oh
my God.
One day.
One day.
No, I think
It's
your
coming.
day is coming.
But also
Yeah.
just, keep us in mind for the, nonprofit work that you
Of course. Anything, like I said, anything, that I could do to facilitate and help, and just like reach out. Ask you. I don't know what you may need. Just ask, like, hey, anybody to do this? Because I know a lot of people in my city. It's small. It's one of those places that you're from there. You kind of just know it. Thank y'all.
All right. Well,
Appreciate
thank you.
Thank you.
Listen, man.
Get you on the camera now tonight.